Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got several updates to discuss. So, the Atlanta Hawks, as we all know, had one of the more intriguing off seasons in the entire NBA. Honestly, probably the best off season in the entire NBA, from the new signings, KP, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, and ongoing roster discussions to the health and development of young stars. Jalen Johnson suffered that season-ending injury last season that limited him to only 36 games played over the entire season, but he's back healthy and he's going to be ready for opening night. And so we're going to talk about his development and an interesting workout that he posted just a couple days ago. So today we're covering that wide range of important updates surrounding the team, including Zach Risacher's performance in EuroBasket exhibitions, the contract specifics surrounding N'Faly Dante, Atlanta's new pickup. We've had some recent developments there, and then some recent reporting on Trae Young and Jalen Johnson. There's some interesting stuff with Jalen as well. So without further ado, we're going to waste no time. We're not going to waste any time and go ahead and jump right into it and talk about how EuroBasket is starting on Wednesday. The official group play is starting on Wednesday, but before that, we've seen friendly exhibition games been going on. Players are representing their home countries in competitive play this offseason, and in lead up to the event, we've seen these games. And for the Hawks, the biggest storyline over this period of time has been last year's number one overall pick, Zach Risacher. He's suiting up for France, so in their recent exhibition against Greece, obviously with the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, Risacher showcased why Atlanta fans should be very optimistic heading into his season and really in his second year development. The overall flashes of what his game could be. He recorded 14 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, showing the flashes of two-way versatility that made him such a highly touted prospect. And he did all of this in 17 minutes. That is very elite numbers for the minutes that he played. Just a very impactful game, and it was the biggest reason why France went ahead and beat Greece. So, France was shorthanded in the front court. There's no doubt about it. Rudy Gobert obviously was not playing. Wemby's not playing. And Moussa Diabate, actually, of the Charlotte Hornets, he opted out of EuroBasket in general just to focus on, preparing for the Hornets' upcoming season. So Risacher has really gotten an opportunity to shine, and he's going to when EuroBasket officially begins on Wednesday. They forced him kind of, to play a little bit of a big position. Like they had him in the paint and making some post cuts and all that a little more, and it was an interesting role for Risacher to play, but he rose to the occasion, and I don't think that's to the surprise of any of us, because like we covered in last video, Risacher's taken a leap in his size. He certainly added a good bit of muscle, and honestly, he's looking like he's more 6'10", 6'11" than the reported 6'8". There was a picture that actually came out of him standing next to Alex Sarr and Bilal Coulibaly, and you can really see, he's pretty close to Alex Sarr in height, and Alex Sarr is 7'2", so that is certainly a recent development. And he looks certainly taller than Coulibaly and Yabusele and these other guys that are listed as 6'8". So he's certainly above 6'8". He's probably like 6'10", 6'11" now. But nonetheless, France is kind of testing with him playing in the post, and he played very well. So, on offense, he provided some good screening, perimeter ball handling, and physical rim pressure. On defense, he made life difficult for Greece's bigs. He didn't really get a ton of action on Giannis, which is probably for the best. But nonetheless, he played, with tight on-ball coverage, leveraging his quickness to disrupt plays. And that's been the biggest standout of Risacher's game in the preliminary EuroBasket games. His defense just looks incredible. It looks much better. He looks like the best defender on the floor on most occasions. Obviously, he didn't look as good as a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo, but nonetheless, he is seriously becoming a very good defender, and he really needs to focus on that aspect of his game as we enter a pivotal season with him as our starting small forward. Offensively, with his unique game, he consistently found ways to score inside. Whether it was in post-up finishes, drives, or even putback dunks. It's just as encouraging. His three-point shot has also been falling at a consistent clip throughout these exhibitions because, the second half of last season, really after the All-Star break, Zachary Risacher bloomed into an elite three-point shooter, one of the league's best after, at the start of January. He was over 40% on good volume, looking like that real complementary piece to a Trae Young offense. Considering how Kristaps Porzingis, we talked about how KP recently struggled against this same Greek team. Risacher's ability to hold his own, and even really excel against this team is seriously worth noting. So, I mean, for Hawks fans, this is really encouraging. This is the exact kind of performance that builds excitement around what the 20-year-old can become in year 2 of his NBA career, which gets started on October 22nd against the Toronto Raptors. So now shifting from international play back to roster construction, let's look at some of the details of Atlanta's recent signing, N'Faly Dante. So last week, the Hawks officially actually announced the signings of N'Faly Dante from the Houston Rockets and Caleb Houston from the Orlando Magic. On the surface, it looked like these two moves filled out the team's roster at 15 players. However, new reporting is showing that the contracts are much more complicated than originally thought, and really not real contracts, if we're being honest. So according to ESPN's Bobby Marks, Dante's 2-year, $4.4 million contract, the one that was reported, it looked like Atlanta really had Dante locked up for the next 2 years. It only carries a partial guarantee of $85,000 for year 1, a significant drop in what we thought it was. This makes it very low risk for Atlanta, and from their perspective, if Houston, had chosen to match the offer sheet, if the Rockets elected to do that, they too would have been on the hook for that small guarantee, but they were unable to due to their first apron hard cap situation. So meanwhile, Caleb Houston's contract is not fully guaranteed either, and we talked about that a little more. We've talked about that previously. Keith Smith of Spotrac, reported that Houston signed that Exhibit 10 deal in Atlanta. So, 2 non-guaranteed deals. It's not standard roster spots. This means the Hawks do have flexibility to move on if they prefer, or to keep their cap sheet open for additional minimum signings while staying under the luxury tax threshold. There are certainly some veterans left available, but Atlanta is prioritizing that flexibility. If they choose to eventually give these guys real contracts, standard deals, both players do bring upside. Houston appeared in 58 games for the Orlando Magic last season, averaging 4 points per game while shooting an impressive 40% from deep, including a league-leading, the second in the league, 50.7% clip after the All-Star break. N'Faly Dante, meanwhile, he showed flashes of rim protection and finishing ability in limited action with Houston, averaging 6 points, 5.3 boards, and 1.3 blocks in just under 13 minutes a game. So good production for, considering the minutes that he played. He was kind of set to be Atlanta's third big next season, but we really don't know how much he's going to play or if he's really even with the team. Training camp next month is going to be super interesting because there's a lot at stake for some of these guys. Some of these low end rotation guys that have non-guaranteed deals, and then also some other guys that are fighting for a roster spot. It's going to be super interesting, and we're going to cover it all here. General Manager Anzi Soleil clearly values optionality with all these type of contracts. It's been a very unique offseason, to say the least. While nothing is guaranteed, both Dante and Houston are well positioned to be the final 2 players on Atlanta's roster once camp concludes. But it's going to be entertaining to keep track of. So speaking of Atlanta's roster outlook, veteran NBA insider Mark Stein recently reported that the Hawks are eager to see more of Trae Young and Jalen Johnson on the floor together this season. As we all know, as we said earlier, honestly, Johnson was limited to just 36 games this past season due to a shoulder injury. But when he played alongside Trae, and even in years prior when he has played alongside Trae, the results have been extremely promising. In fact, since 2021, Atlanta holds a 79-73 record when both Johnson and Young are in the lineup. That's not a super impressive clip, but for an Atlanta team that has missed the playoffs in a few consecutive seasons, that is certainly notable, to say the least. An above 500 record, and while considering everything else that's gone on with the roster and the not so good roster construction. The Hawks have not made the playoffs since 2023, but there is a belief that a healthy pairing of these two players could be central to their resurgence, which is looking like it'll be this year in a wide open Eastern Conference where the Hawks are looking to be at the top of it. As we all know, Trae Young is coming off of another elite season, averaging 24 points and a league-leading 11.6 assists per game. His efficiency was down a little bit, but this isn't anything to be concerned with, as he's going to get several more open looks this season per game. So that the efficiency should not be a problem this year, and his assists should go up. Johnson, despite the shortened year, only 36 games, he averaged 19 points, 10 boards, and 5 assists per game, showcasing his all-around impact. Jalen Johnson was really on track to be an all-star all-star last season before his year got cut short. But nonetheless, this really could be the year where Jalen Johnson sees his first all-star appearance. Just he's got to stay healthy. This is just a thing for Jalen. He's got to stay healthy for Atlanta's success and for his own personal development. So, and relating to this, extension talks for Trae are not expected to materialize this offseason, as we have reported. I mean, he is eligible for that 4-year, $229 million max extension, the exact same one that De'Aaron Fox of the Spurs got. But the team is focused on contracts. I mean, focused less on contracts and more on maximizing the core duo on the court. Young can become a free agent in the summer of 2026 if he ends up declining that player option. So this upcoming season with the new look roster carries big picture implications for the franchise and Young himself. As we've said, they just want to see Young win with this roster. They want to see, with this elite roster around him now, and the perfect mix of young guys and veterans and defense and playmaking and shooting, really has all the aspects of a team that could win a championship. They want to see if Young can get it done and at least have Atlanta be contenders. If Atlanta is still mid next season and everyone stays healthy and we have like a 41-41 record, they might elect to move on, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Atlanta is going to be near the top of the Eastern Conference next season. I think they just want to see it happen with Trae and Jalen both healthy in that lineup before they make any sort of decision about the future, which honestly, it's a pretty smart approach. So, and on the subject of Jalen Johnson, he has been putting in significant offseason work because after that season-ending injury, it's been a very long and difficult rehab process. But nonetheless, Jalen Johnson looks back healthy. He was recently spotted training with none other than the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James, continuing a relationship that also saw the two work together last summer. Now, this is no just random workout. I mean, for Johnson, this is more than just conditioning. LeBron's style as a point forward closely mirrors Johnson, which closely mirrors what Johnson is striving to become. A versatile playmaker as a forward who can initiate offense, defend multiple positions, and take over games with size and skill. Before his injury last season, like I said, Johnson was putting up numbers that had him in early most improved player discussions. That ended up going to another one of Atlanta's own, Dyson Daniels. But nonetheless, Jalen was right there in those combos, and honestly, he was probably ahead of Dyson. The Hawks were playing some of their best basketball with him on the floor. They almost won that NBA Cup. They got to that NBA Cup semifinal in Vegas, that game against the Bucks. That was super fun. Maybe they can get back this year and win that, although that doesn't really have any meaning. But nonetheless, it would be a good indicator of the trajectory that the franchise is on. I mean, they were sitting comfortably in playoff position. When Jalen was healthy, at the time he went down, the Atlanta Hawks were the 5 seed. So there's very much reason to believe that even if Atlanta made none of the offseason moves that they made this offseason, they would still be projected to be like a 4 or 5 seed this upcoming season. Now, adding Porzingis and Alexander Walker and Kennard and Asa Newell, now it's really looking like they are almost a lock for that as long as the guys stay healthy. Which adding more depth like that allows for more insurance if one of those players were to get hurt. But nonetheless, Atlanta has a very talented roster, and they should be near the top of the East. Atlanta ultimately fought their way into the play-in last season, and then they fell short of returning to the postseason. So it's been a few years, but with the new additions, the Hawks are deeper and more balanced. If Johnson can stay healthy and take another leap alongside Trae Young and Zach Langley, Atlanta could reestablish itself as a contender in the Eastern Conference. An interesting thing is that everyone relating it back to LeBron and Jalen working out with LeBron, obviously with Chris Johnson, the trainer, that's who they were with. Everyone has been preparing for an NBA post LeBron when LeBron is no longer in the league. And I mean, he's been in the league for 22 seasons, so it's going to be very different. But they've been looking for who is the player that most closely resembles LeBron James. And now LeBron is a very rare archetype. There's a reason why. If you don't believe he's the GOAT, there's a reason to, you can see why someone would consider him that, because all around, this is a very unique player, and so it's very hard to find a player that is a forward that possesses that rare skill set. Jalen is probably one of the closest we've ever seen to it. Now, I'm not saying that Jalen Johnson is anywhere near LeBron James, but just as a pure archetype of that point forward who's great in transition, dominant in transition, the poster dunks, the creation around the rim as a forward, and outside of the rim and the arc. mark. It's just he's very similar, and a lot of people have pointed to Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic as a guy who could be kind of the next LeBron in terms of play style, and I could certainly see that. I mean, when you watch Paolo Banchero in the post up and also the decisions he makes on the perimeter, he certainly gives a little bit of LeBron. But I think I think the transition game, it's not even close. Jalen Johnson is pretty much like there with LeBron. The Hawks will be heavily relying on Jalen Johnson to unlock their ceiling this year. So to recap, Zachary Risacher is turning heads in the EuroBasket exhibitions. N'Faly Dante and Caleb Houston's contracts are giving the Hawks some financial flexibility going forward. Mark Stein of the Sideline says that the franchise is eager to see more of the Trae Young and Jalen Johnson pairing, and Jalen continues to learn from the GOAT LeBron James as he looks to take that next step into, all-star, all-NBA, and, propel the Hawks to the top of the Eastern Conference. So they're entering the season with a mix of established talent, young upside, and strategic roster flexibility. If everything ends up coming together, Atlanta could be one of the league's most improved teams. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. I'm Zach Langley. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on Hawks Latest. We're going to be pumping out videos every single week, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.